Fortunately for us, the only big surprise is us flipping somebody from TCU to Oklahoma State. We haven't lost anybody that stayed committed for quite some time. So, yeah, all is well in Cowboy land.
So who's the flip?
We got LaDainian Fields to flip from TCU to come to Oklahoma State. Now, we were in on LaDainian Fields very early as a wide receiver, but it appears as though, right, he really wants to play defensive back, and we found the ability to help him out there. So, yeah, that was a good surprise today. And then we got a running back out of South Carolina, 6'2", 225 pounds, that ran for 2,200 yards, and somehow we were only his really only big time Power 5 offer. So yeah, when you watch his film, it doesn't really make a lot of sense how he kind of got swept under the rug. But in today's transfer market era, there is going to be kids that do get swept under the rug, in my opinion, now more than ever before, because a lot of these recruiting services do have to divvy up some attention to the transfer market.
So, of course, Cody, the first thing that people are going to note is a class that's ranked at number 55. And when you've got a program that is looking to finish in the top 25, as Oklahoma State typically does in that range, that's not keeping up with the standard, but there's a whole lot more that goes into it. So are you pretty happy with this class?
I am. A 16-man high school class. It shows a lot of different things. One of the things being that we're still very focused on development. Yeah, a lot of people think that if you just plug and play with the transfer portal, you'll always be okay. And there's some formulas that say that might work, but in my opinion, you got to have a decent amount of the developmental side of the game as well. And then we've got some guys on there like Landon Cleveland that is going to be good enough to potentially play as a freshman. Landon Cleveland's the big get of the class, right? We've only got 2 guys in this class that have significant offers from places like Texas and Michigan and Alabama. Landon Cleveland's one of those. David Kabongo's one of those. I think that the biggest thing to take into account here is this is a very defensive-heavy class. Well, we've got a lot of youth defensively, but clearly in this system, we wanted a little bit more size, a little bit more speed, and versatility. So we've got linebackers that have played years of safety. We've got safety that have played years of corner. And it just, developmental-wise, we're going to have a lot of Swiss Army knife style capabilities with this incoming class. So, yeah, the number's not great. And if you're a top 25 team, I mean, technically Oklahoma State is a top 10 team over the last 10 to 12 years as far as wins are concerned. It's hard to always be a top 25 team when you're always recruiting in the 40s and 50s. Clearly, the Rob Glass body by glass system that we use to bulk people up is very good at Oklahoma State. But obviously, the development side of the thing is big for us. And then we've got some guys in the transfer portal that we'll use to kind of cover up some needs. But we really only have 6 scholarship transfers thus far. So we really don't have a lot of needs to fill. So this is more of the development for next season, which has me very, very excited.
Cody, there's a thought out there that you know better than I do, and you probably hear it a lot more often than I do, but I know that it's been out there for a long time that Mike Gundy doesn't necessarily invest in recruiting, care about recruiting. We saw recruiting budgets come out several months ago that were analyzed and tracked, and Oklahoma State was near the bottom of Power 5 schools in regards to how much money they spent in recruiting. So do you think that that's a fair assessment of the situation?
I mean, I do. Unfortunately, he's kind of had to come to the realization, aka this season, that this is just the way of the world now. And he's been, I don't want to say forced, but he's been encouragingly nudged along in regards to understanding that the NIL era it's here and it's not going to go anywhere. And if you completely do everything predicated upon development, you're going to find yourself every few years moving backwards. So I do think that Mike Gundy now sees the writing on the wall, and he's been a lot more forthcoming recently in regards to NIL and how the collective is important. And then when you look at Oklahoma State only having the 6 transfers, clearly we made an emphasis on the NIL packaging because we have all 6 starting offensive linemen back. That's right. I can count. That's one more than 5 because we have one guy coming back that started for a couple years and then dealt with a couple injuries. So we got 6 offensive linemen back. Still hearing 100% great news around Ollie Gordon. So, yeah, we've had Gundy embrace this thing, maybe a little late, but rather later than never.
Yeah. So the transfer portal, what are your thoughts about what positions are needed, if those are being addressed, some of the additions that they've made? You're talking about, on one hand, being able to secure the guys that are already on the roster, something that was a problem last offseason that you just talked about. Also, I'm looking at Kobe Hilton, a safety that comes in from UTEP. I see an offensive tackle, Isaiah Glass, coming in from Arizona State. Do you expect Gundy and company to be even more active in the portal for the rest of the offseason?
I do feel like that we've strategically targeted a few different positions. The biggest position of need seems to be a little bit of help at defensive end. You know, we've got a young guy in Deshaun Brown that everybody's very high on, but we lose Nathan Latu this season. And then we also lose Cody Waltersheed, which is another 6-year senior. So the biggest position of need appears to be defensive end. We're hearing a lot of positive things about Reggie Grimes, right? A potential transfer from OU to potentially help fill that void of somebody like an Anthony Goodlow. But yeah, I definitely feel like defensive line is something that we're going to be heavily invested in. And we also need a couple more wide receivers. We like the youth and the depth that we have at wideout, but you never can have too many quality wide receivers. So I expect us to hit a few more wide receivers and defensive linemen.
Bowl game's coming up against Texas A&M. You excited about that?
I am. Anytime you have the opportunity to take on a big brand, especially a brand that's nationally recognized in this NIL transfer market era, that the SEC style of matchup and them being former Big 12 foes, it does have some storylines. I like the hiring of Mike Elko. I love the hiring of Colin Klein, but I don't know how competitive the game's going to be. It shouldn't be competitive, Mark. They're missing half their daggone starting roster. They have, the brand new offensive coordinator, brand new defense coordinator. The interim head coach has already accepted another job, so he's taking a flight when the bowl game's over. I don't see how Texas A&M is going to be able to field a team that can beat Oklahoma State, right? We're returning 90% of our dudes. They're returning like maybe 29% of their dudes. So, yeah, I like the bowl game. I like the matchup. I like some of the storylines. I do wish they didn't have as many outgoing because it would make the game a little bit more competitive. Because here's the deal. If we win, everyone's going to say, well, of course you won, right? They're missing half their starters. But if we lose, then it's going to be an indictment on how terrible the Big 12 is. And Oklahoma State being representation of the Big 12 just proves that half the SEC, you know the storylines, man. They write themselves if we don't win. So, yeah, hopefully it's a big old boat racing of the Aggies. But other than that, yeah, I do feel pretty good, and I like the bowl game.
Any particular players in that game that either we should be looking out for, or guys that maybe we don't know a whole lot about, but it's big for them to get that jump on 2024 and try to get a starting spot or make more of an impact?
Well, typically, you're very well aware the bowl prep does give you a lot of time to get some of the younger guys mixed up into the packaging because it doesn't count against the scholarships and all that fun jazz. So I do expect, in the same vein of the wide receiver room, I expect a couple of young wide receivers, maybe Cameron Hurd or Jalen Pope, to get in on the action. From a running back perspective, most people obviously are going to be pretty focused on Ollie Gordon, especially with Jaden Nixon now in the transfers, the backup running back. I expect a Michigan State transfer, Elijah Collins, to have a pretty good showing and a pretty good day. And Nick Martin. Nick Martin's first team All Big 12, and somehow he got snubbed by Danny Stutzman on the All-American list. So I expect Nick Martin to come out on a mission.
All right, good stuff. Oklahoma State taking on Texas A&M in the Texas Bowl. Let's not forget about these bowl games with this transfer portal going on all the time, folks. There's still football to be watched. I love bowl season. I still love it. I think it's gotten kicked to the curb, and I don't like it.
Well, there's just so many bowl games, right? It used to be a badge of honor if you made it to a bowl game. Nowadays, all you got to do is go 5-7 and you got a pretty good shot at a bowl game. So in my opinion, it's supposed to be a reward on a successful season, right?
Well, 6-6. Let's not push it. I think we got one 5-7 team playing in a bowl game.
We always got a 5-7 team, and to me, that's when it got too crazy.
Yeah, they
Right?
created too many spots.
Yeah, too many bowl games. So you got to start letting 5-7 teams in. Now it does work out in the benefit at times, right? Because we recently watched a bowl game where the team wasn't even supposed to be really in a bowl, and then they got a bowl W. So I do like that there's some benefits to the extra bowl games, but it takes away from what the bowl games are supposed to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, somebody wasn't working out the math too well. When you've got 133 teams and you got 41 bowl games, so you got 82 spots, so you got more than half. More than likely, you're going to have to invite some 5-7 teams. But I think it's just Minnesota. I think they're the only 5-7 team that made it. So there is that. All right, Cody, appreciate you stopping by.
Absolutely.
Good luck with the rest of National Signing Day, but it looks like everything's pretty well sewn up.
Yeah, no big surprises, which is nice.
All right, Cody. Have a great rest of your holiday here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all those good things.
You too,
We'll catch up soon, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you as well. Go Pokes.